You know, we have a long, long history of music in this town, in this city, and it was really part of our culture here. It put Bakersfield on the map worldwide. Anywhere you go in the world and you run in any music circles, people know about the Bakersfield sound. It's amazing. From all corners of the world, it was really that famous.
We're having a practice here. The Elks Lodge has graciously let us use their facilities here to run through a couple practice rounds for the fair. And we're going to do a tribute to the Bakersfield sound and where it came from and everything else. And it sort of takes, we're going to sort of go back to like the 50s and 60s and 70s.
Today the Bakersfield Sound is practicing for their upcoming show being held at the Kern County Fair on Tuesday night. Rick Stevens has applied to be a member of our lodge and approached us and asked if we could let them come and practice, and we gladly accepted.
It was kind of a brainchild of mine several years ago. I've always wanted to kind of do something like this where we have a tribute to the Bakersfield sound. A lot of these people here today that are rehearsing and are going to be on our show are second generation of the Bakersfield sound, and some third generation. And so it's always been a dream of mine to kind of put a show like this on. And so when we started talking about it, it kind of expanded into this whole thing. So what happened was we did a show at Valley Baptist Church for the Valentine's dinner. And there was this amazing set that Eric Hahn was the designer of. And I thought, oh my gosh, man, that's exactly what I want to do right there. So we got together with Eric, and he's the set designer, him and I, and we designed this new set that we're going to have at the fair. And it just all kind of came together. I said, that's going to be the coolest show, because we designed a set where we built all the old nightclubs of Bakersfield, yesteryear, the Blackboard, the Lucky Spot, the Hillbilly Ranch, and so many more that were part of that Bakersfield sound. And then we went and we wrote a script of all these great songs from the 50s through the 70s that were hit songs in Bakersfield.
This is going to be the first time in almost 10 years that they have actually opened up the grandstands to have a show there.
This show, we're hoping, is going to bring back a lot of memories for a lot of people that grew up in that era. But also, we hope that there are a lot of young people here at the show that never have really experienced what the Bakersfield sound is really all about.
Well, the Bakersfield sound came out of two really dramatic national events. One was the Dust Bowl of the late 30s, where a lot of Okies came out from the southwestern part of the Great Plains and set up shop here in Bakersfield. And maybe even a bigger event that led to this great phenomenon was World War II, when a lot of people came west to the shipyards of San Francisco Bay Area and the airplane factories of the Los Angeles area. And when the war was over, they stuck around. A lot of entertainment had come with them. Entertainment came out to the West Coast to keep them happy while they were, when the shift was over. And they all stayed. A lot of them stayed. And so they had this sort of country music sensibilities that California hadn't really had before that time. And it sprang out of that. People ask me, what is the Bakersfield sound? Is it Buck Owens? Is it Merle Haggard? No, those guys sound really different. The thing that keeps it all together is just a special time and place. It was a unique period of time, and it just happened to happen right here in Bakersfield.
Well, most people that know me know where I came from and stuff. My father was a Buck Owens. He had a lot to do with it, and You know, at one point they were calling Bakersfield Nashville West. It was only called Nashville West because of people like Buck and Merle, Red Simpson, Billy Mize, some others, Dwight Yoakam, other people that didn't want to be necessarily told that they have to live in Nashville.
You know, Nashville was a recording studio, industry-driven city. Bakersfield was a honky-tonk driven city. There was no recording industry here to speak of. There was some small stuff, but it was honky-tonk driven. And the performers weren't just influenced by Ernest Tubb and, you know, the great country guys. They were influenced by Little Richard and Buddy Holly. There's a big rock and roll influence in that Bakersfield sound. Now, when Elvis Presley came out, he had been a country singer at one time, but when he came out, Nashville just freaked out. And the leaders of that industry said, we need country music to sound as unlike Elvis Presley as possible. Well, record buyers liked that sound, and Bakersfield gave it to them, or as close to it as they could be without being Elvis Presley. So they just kind of filled that void. And Buck Owens, with kind of a rockabilly, almost norteño sound, just jumped right into that vacuum, and Bakersfield took over the world.
If you think of country music back in the 50s and 60s and even parts of the 70s and stuff, a lot of it that came out of Nashville was pretty straightforward. There was no difference in most of the songs. The songs just had a different singer. The guitar might have been up a little bit higher, or maybe the drums or something like that. But when you got into the Bakersfield sound, to me, there was just a little bit of a difference. It was more of a twangy sound on guitars. The bass was turned up, the drums were kicking different. The stories were about California.
You know, we have a long history of music in this town, in this city, and it was really part of our culture. It put Bakersfield on the map worldwide. Anywhere you go in the world, and you run in any music circles, people know about the Bakersfield sound. It's amazing. From all corners of the world. It was really that famous.
I think that Bakersfield sound music has been influencing not just Bakersfield, we keep saying Bakersfield, but all over the world with Buck and Merle. For the country part of it, you've got Blake Shelton, you've got Randy Travis, people that were singing these songs, tribute albums that are already being made to Merle Haggard. Vince Gill has one out. And I think that the influence from Bakersfield is a love that is being carried out throughout the world, and they show that and their appreciation by recognizing them as well as us.
The music of Buck and Merle and so many before them have influenced so many people in the industry. Not just country music, but the Beatles, and it goes on and on. The Rolling Stones. I mean, there's people that know the Bakersfield sound. It was an influential time. It was just something different. It was so new in that time frame. Capitol Records at the time, Ken Nelson and Cliffy Stone were working in that time frame in the 60s, and they were actually signing country music artists on the West Coast, and they were promoting from Los Angeles at Capitol Records. So they would do the records down at Capitol Records, but they would come play the honky tonks down in Bakersfield. So it became this thing. You know, they would come down the hill or down the Grapevine and play at all these great honky tonks, and Buck and Merle, of course, were from here. So we just had this amazing combination. It was a perfect storm, if you will, at that time.
You know, I think the Bakersfield sound still influences local musicians, not so much musically, although it does to an extent. I think people are so aware of the tradition and the legacy, and they're proud of the fact they're from Bakersfield. They may have a different thing going on. You know, I think Jonathan Davis and Korn are proud of the fact that they're from Bakersfield, even though they sound nothing like Buck Owens. It's like a high bar to live up to. If you're going to say you're from Bakersfield and you got a guitar, you better be pretty good.
I don't know if people realize how many hit songs came out of Bakersfield, California. I don't really know if a lot of people today actually realize how many big songs came out of here. But it wasn't just Buck and Merle who were pretty much the faces of country music, but there were so many others. There was Joe Maphis, there was Gene Shepard, there was Bill Woods, Billy Mize, Buddy Mize, Dallas Frazier, and so many, Red Simpson, of course, everybody knows, but there's so many great songs that were associated with this town.
Cities need to be aware of what made them famous. They need to be aware of the brand that they create. You know, Los Angeles is the film industry, the entertainment industry. It needs to hang on to that thing. Silicon Valley, San Jose, it's high tech. Chicago is the blues. Florida is oranges, whatever it is, they need to be proud of that and hang on to it. Bakersfield is country music. You know, whether you like country music or not, it is a special time and place that happened here that Bakersfield hasn't always been proud of. Well, you don't have to like country music to be proud of the fact that something really special happened here in the 1950s and 60s.
My band, we play traditional country music. We're going to continue to do that. We're not going to change. We're going to stay true to it and everything else. And most of the songs that we do, not all of them, but pretty much most of them, are all traditional country music. And there's a crowd of people out there in every city that miss it. And they don't like the rocked up stuff. They're not going to go to those shows. They'll never show up on those kind of things. But you have a bigger audience when you're rocked up and everything else, because you get the younger crowd and things like that. But the people that want to remember the traditional country music and everything else, they want these shows and stuff. We've been doing it at the Crystal Palace, and I'll tell you, we keep getting more and more people when we play the Buck Owens Crystal Palace once a month. And we're getting bigger crowds, and we try to change the songs up and things like that. I think what people will see is just you know, where it came from and where it's headed, and what we're going to try to do with it and stuff like that. And we're just going to continue playing it and stuff. And that's what it's all about.